kind of looking back and reflecting back on a tough week at Oklahoma and having the opportunity to sit down and watch the film, watching the film was really bittersweet in a lot of respects. Bitter because of the way some guys played, getting in those big lights. We talked about we're going to learn so much about our football team, and I think we did learn an awful lot about them, both from a positive and a standpoint to find out just how far we had to go. I think everybody in that opening game learns a lot about your football team and a lot of the new players that are going to step into a situation and how they're going to respond on game day. I felt, it was kind of, when I looked at offensively, we certainly didn't start the way we wanted to start, but I felt like as the game went on, the offense got better and better. I thought Cody Sokol, for his first college start here at Louisiana Tech, I thought did an excellent job of standing in there, of making some throws, of making some reads. I thought in the second half, I believe it was about 14 of 18 throwing the ball in the second half, and really did a nice job. It was nice to see him settle down a little bit and play in the second half the way that he did. I felt like the skill players played really well. I felt like Paul Turner and Sterling Griffin had excellent games, along with Hunter Lee and Trent Taylor. I felt like those four wide receivers played well for us, and we didn't ask Kenneth Dixon and Blake Martin to run the ball a whole lot, but I thought what they did in pass protection was excellent. I thought they did a really nice job of staying in, picking up some blitzers, and keeping some of the hits off of our quarterback, and they really did a nice job. Up front on the offensive line, we played 8 guys. Up front, we played obviously the 5 that started, and then we played Kirby Wixon, we played Mahaffey, and we played Jens Danielson. And I thought those guys went in to play 8 offensive linemen in a game like that against that caliber defense. I thought was a great experience for our offense, our offensive line, and I think it'll help us as we're moving forward. But I was really encouraged with what I saw offensively, not with the way that we started, but certainly with the way that we finished. I was encouraged with the way that we threw and caught the ball and the way we executed some things in the passing game, including protecting our quarterback. That's a defense that is built for speed. They have had an awful lot of sacks. Just look at the bowl game a year ago, and they had 1 player with 3 sacks against Alabama in the bowl game. And for us to have 2, and the offensive line really only gave up 1, I thought they did a really nice job of protecting the quarterback. On defense, which is really the side that we felt like we were most experienced in, and I've talked a lot about, we were going to rely on our defense to carry the thing early. I still think we have a lot of talent over there, but was really disappointed with the way that we played defensively. I felt like we played too much as individuals. We had way too many missed assignments. I mean, we've got calls where we called base defense, and we got guys running out of their gap, running a stunt, and there was nothing called. There were things that I've said you never really know how people are going to respond in a game like atmosphere and environment until you get in that atmosphere. And so I felt like defensively we can play much better than we did. I don't think that was a very good showing defensively, but I think our defensive players would agree that we can improve tremendously just by controlling what we control. I take nothing away from Oklahoma. They're a phenomenal, talented team, and they're very good. Talking to Bob Stoops before the game, he said it's probably one of his most talented teams he's had in 16 years at Oklahoma, and they had the healthiest camp that they've ever had. He was going on, and I just told him, it was like, well, I'm glad we're going to be here to see him play. And so I think they're really good. I think they're as advertised, but I felt like we could do some things much better defensively. I don't think that we played very well within our own system. I thought there were some guys that performed tremendously. I thought the 2 defensive end, I thought Houston Bates and Dora played excellent football games. I thought Liggins at the 1 corner really played a solid game, and Kentrell Bryce and Xavier Woods, I think, showed that they deserved to be in that arena. I thought those 5 or 6 guys really played well for us defensively. We've got to get to the point where we can do our job better than we did. I don't think it was anything other than guys trying to do too much. Guys leaving their gap to go try and make a tackle and then leaving their gap open. And when you get good running backs like that, they're going to find it. The special teams, I think, is one of the poorest performances that I've seen since I've been coaching as a single game performance. When you look at what we did, I think special teams a year ago was one of our strong suits. We talk about that dirty dozen and those 12 guys that are going to step in and be on a lot of our special teams. But I think they're a very talented team, and what they're going to do is they're going to expose mistakes. But there were things that disappointed me that we did not do very well. I think in the punting game, we gave up 2 returns of 20 yards. We're a directional punt team. We did not direction it very well. I mean, we kicked the ball down the middle of the field. Our fan, we did not have a very good net going down the field. We gave up those 2 returns on the kickoff cover team. We only had to cover really 1 kick that we kicked deep, and it went back for 80 yards. And it's a matter of guys crossing face, safeties being where they're supposed to be. We can show them on film that if we're going to do what we're supposed to do, then those type of things don't break free. And then we had 12 men on the field one time on a punt return. We had 10 men on the field one time on a field goal. We still snapped the ball. We had 2 field goals blocked. I just felt like special teams wise, it was not what we are used to seeing with our special team performance. And we've taken great pride in our special teams and the way that we've played special teams here, but ours were not very special on Saturday. And we've really got to do a better job as coaches getting the point across and getting some of the little things taught from a special team standpoint, because if not, we're never going to be able to be the type of football team that we want to be. A lot of the mistakes that I see in this game are correctable. And that's the encouraging part of it. I mean, it's hard to go play a team like Oklahoma, but I think at the same time it's incredibly valuable because they point out a lot of your weaknesses, because as we've talked about, you never know how you're going to be until you can get out there on the field. And I think they pointed out a lot of weaknesses, and I think they show our team. It's great film for them to watch to see if I just would have done my job here, then that play doesn't hit. If I just would have done my job here, then that play's successful. And I think from that standpoint, we can definitely improve from week 1 to week 2. Getting into week 2, that takes us to Lafayette. I think they've done an excellent job down there at Lafayette. I think they've built a very good program. They've won 3 bowls. When you look at the facts, they've gone to 3 bowls in a row. They've got 8 players selected first-team Sun Belt. They're a unanimous choice to win the Sun Belt again this year. They return about everybody. When you look at them, they've got a lot of seniors on this team that have been playing for 3 and 4 years going into this season. When you look at them on offense, they have a quarterback who's the preseason quarterback of the year in the Sun Belt. They have 2 running backs that I think are excellent. One's a 240-pound pounder that can run it up inside, and the other one, McGuire, is a speedy, shifty, extremely quick athlete, and he gets the ball in space. He's their big play hitter. He has the long runs, the big plays, but I think they've got 2 really good running backs that are both back. They've got 4 returning starters back on their offensive line. The one that they had to replace, they have a senior step in to replace them. They've got all 6 of their receivers are back, and they're 2 deep. Their tight end is back. You look at them, it's a very explosive offensive football team that can put up a lot of points, and I think they've done an excellent job, and I think that's one of the reasons that they're picked to win the Sun Belt. When you look at them on the defensive side of the ball, it starts with their defensive line. Their front is very similar to what we saw, although last week they ran something completely different. I don't know if it was a philosophy change or they were just trying to run something different last week, but they ran something different than they have from the entire season last year. And so not really sure what we're going to see schematically defensively. But I think when you look at their personnel, it starts with those big guys up front. They have 3 very talented defensive linemen. They have more than that because they play about 6 or 7 defensive linemen, always keeping fresh guys in on the field. But I think their 3 starters are explosive. I look at Vern Butler being one of our better defensive linemen, and I think they're all 3 like a Vern Butler. They're big, they're physical, they're athletic, they run very well, and they cause an awful lot of disruption. I think their linebackers are big and physical. They play a 3-4 defense, but all their linebackers are kind of in that 220 to 250 range. They play a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball, as I talked about. They're kind of built for speed, kind of like Oklahoma was, but they've got probably a little bit more size than their outside linebackers. And then their safeties are the ones they're the adjusters. They line everybody up, and I think their corners are very talented players. Overall, when you look at them on offense and defense, it's not surprising to see why they've been to 3 bowl games and why they're picked to win the Sun Belt. And these are the facts of what has been out there and what they've done and what they've accomplished and what you see on film. Their special teams, They've got a senior kicker who's a grows a watch list guy. They have a punter who averaged 55 yards a punt, who's also a senior, averaged 55 yards a punt last week. And they've got McGuire as their new punt returner, who is one of their most explosive, electric players that they have on the offensive side of the ball. So it's going to be a great challenge for us, having the opportunity to go down to Lafayette. I encourage all the Louisiana Tech fans and the Bulldogs to come support this team down there. It's an in-state rivalry game. This game means a lot, and having the opportunity to go down there and play, I encourage all our fans to follow us down there, because we're going to need your support down there. But it'll be a great challenge as our second road game. But again, one that we're not going to sit around and feel sorry for ourselves. We're going to go play it. We lost a football game. Let's learn from it. And let's move on. And that's where we are right now.
Coach, defensively against OU, you said you were disappointed in the guys. It was, especially with the depth at D tackle and how experienced they were. Was that really one of your biggest disappointments?
The front seven, just everybody playing disciplined defense. I mean, that was probably what I was disappointed in. I'm not going to say that I was disappointed. I love the effort of this football team. I love the way they competed. They went on the road in an opening game with a lot of new starters and a lot of new faces, and I thought they competed for 60 minutes. I thought they played hard. I thought they played physical. You're going against probably one of the better football teams in the country, and they were big. They were physical, a lot bigger and more physical than I thought they were going to be. But it's more the discipline of holding your gap or doing your assignment that was my disappointment. And like I said, I don't think it was a defiant thing as much as it was guys got out there and were trying to make plays. And you're trying to chase the ball, and against a good running back, you can't chase the ball in a zone scheme. And it was a great lesson for us going into this week, because this week they're very similar with a big power back and a scat back, and they run an awful lot of zone, and they require you to play disciplined defensive football because of the offense that they run. So I think it'll be a great experience for us, and I think our players can see that film yesterday and say, you know what, we've got to get better in some areas.
On that note, how do you, after a loss like that, how do you look at the film and still encourage your team to say, okay, we need to fix this, but we're still playing a good team this week and we need to be even better?
Well, I think, in all honesty, it's probably easiest because we have their attention, because we can pull up the cut-ups when you take out of their runs. You can take 20 runs where everybody holds their gap and we do what we're supposed to do, and it's a gain of 2. And then you run the very same play, and you can show where 2 guys left their gap, and it's a gain of 18. The big play that goes for 22 yards for one of their early touchdowns. We got out of a gap. And so I think from that standpoint, what happened on Saturday probably makes it a little bit easier because you have their attention. I don't play games. I'm very honest with our team, with where I think they are and what we need to do to get on. And that's why I said you can't sit around and feel sorry for yourself. You can't mope because you lost a football game. All you can do is learn from it and get better and improve. But there were some encouraging things. I really liked the way Woods and Bryce and Liggins and Dora and Bates and the way they played and the things they did. Now we've just got to get 2 or 3 more guys on that page, and then 2 or 3 more, and keep getting better. Because as this season's gone on, I've said this all along, we will be a work in progress with so many of the new faces on this football team.
Hey, Skip, offensively for those guys, Broadway, I think Robinson had a pretty good night throwing it back and forth to each other. But my understanding, too, is that they were pretty vanilla offensively the other night. So I got to think your guys are thinking you're going to see a lot bigger package come Saturday.
Well, and they could afford to be that way. I mean, in a game where they were successful from a lopsided standpoint, they didn't have to show a lot of the things that they're doing or the things that they've been working on. And so you've got a whole season of work last year, and in early games, there's always going to be something special. Somebody's going to throw out a trick play or a special or a razzle-dazzle or a throwback, or there's going to be some of that that's going to come up. But that's why it's so important to play disciplined, fundamental football, and that's why that is so important, because that's the only way you can hold up. I don't know what we'll get offensively. I'm sure we'll definitely get more wrinkles than what we saw the other night.
Your top 8 tacklers were from the back 7, 50 tackles from the back 7 with only 12 for the defensive line. How do you generate more pressure?
You're talking, for us last week?
Yes.
Okay. How do we pressure?
Going forward, how do you get the defensive line more involved to generate more pressure?
Well, I think it goes back to our defensive line. We didn't have a single tackle for a loss. We didn't have a single tackle for a loss. And again, I'm going to say some of that is attributed to them and what they do as an offensive line and how good they are. But part of it is us. And what do? We go back to what we've been doing all camp, and we get our defensive line to hold their gaps. And there's sometimes in defensive football you have to give yourself up to do your job, and you can't just chase the ball. And that's the thing. It was almost like street ball, where everybody was just running for the football, and we made ourselves vulnerable. And I think in order to be a better defensive football team, we've got to get back to penetrating with our defensive line.
What are you expecting from Cody this week? You said he may have had some first game jitters, so what are you expecting him to do to take a step forward this week now that it's the second game?
I think he's been playing, the way he played in the second half is pretty much as the way that he's played all camp. I think he's done a really good job of protecting the football. I'm sure that going back and watching the film, there's a couple throws that he would love to have back in that game Saturday, that because he's been able to make those throws, and I've seen him make them. But I thought in the second half, the way he settled down and played in, I told him I think it was just he needed to get hit. I mean, he needed to get hit to say, okay, all right, game time, let's go play. And I thought he stepped in there and competed his tail off. And so I think the more he plays, the more comfortable he's going to get, and sitting in there and doing the things that he's done. I'm not asking Cody to do something special. I'm not asking him to do 2 or 3 people's jobs. I'm just asking him to play quarterback within the system. And when he does that, he is very efficient. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He's very talented, and he's very accurate with the ball. And I liked what I saw in the second half out of him.
You held true to your word with the multiple in the sense that you showed a lot of looks on offense.
Right.
How effective do you think some of those new formations were in terms of single back, I formation, and the fullback?
I mean, obviously, no matter what we got in, the run game wasn't very good. I mean, the run game wasn't very good. And but I do think in the third quarter, it's one of the things that got us rolling. We were able to hit a couple big passes out of the bigger formations. The bigger formations to get some 20-yard gains and some big chunks of yardage to get a drive moving. And so I think it helped us from that standpoint. And then as the game went on, what we didn't want to do is just put Cody in the pocket and have to throw it every down, how good Oklahoma is rushing the passer, because that's what they do. I mean, when you look at Stryker, he's one of the best pass rushers in the country, and we were trying to stay away from that. And so I like the game plan. I don't think we executed it as well as we would have liked to, and I wish we could have run the ball better. But I do like what we're doing right now as an offense.
Y'all shuffled some guys around on the offensive line. Was it just because you were looking for some different looks? What was happening there?
No, we came in and said we wanted to play all 8 players. We said we wanted to play all 8 of those guys that we felt are ready to play right now, and those starting 5 and those 3 I mentioned with Mahaffey, Wixon, and Danielson. And I thought they went in and did a really nice job. We've got to play more than 5 guys, and in a game like that was going to be as big and physical as it was, you're always trying to prepare your football team as we go through a 12-game season to develop that depth. And when you look at guys like Wixon and Mahaffey, they haven't played at all. Those were our first college football games. So I think it was great to have the opportunity to get experience for those guys. And I thought for the most part they did a pretty good job in there.
And from your stance, did you show your whole deck in against Oklahoma, or do you feel like you've got some bullets to shoot?
No, it's hard to run an entire offense in 65 plays. I mean, we didn't get in every formation. We didn't run every run play we have or pass play we have. As I've said before, we put a smorgasbord of offense in for camp, and then every week you kind of go back and you start over and say, we like this, we like this, we like this, and then those are the things that you practice that week. So we certainly didn't show everything we do, but I like having the ability to be able to get big or get in 10 personnel and spread the field a little bit, depending on who you're playing and what you want to do that week.
How does playing in an environment like you did this week help you going into another tough road environment?
I mean, it's 85,000, I think, was the announced attendance, something along those lines. I thought it was a great venue. I said in the press conference after the game, I give Oklahoma fans an awful lot of credit. They cheered for their team. They were loud, but I thought they were incredibly classy. I mean, I thought they were very classy. It's probably easy to do when you're up 48-16, but I thought that they were, every time Oklahoma had a positive yards play, they clapped. There wasn't a lot of yelling and screaming, and I would imagine it's going to be a little bit different this week, that we will hear some people that will have some choice words for our coaches and our players as we're down on the field. But I thought it was a great venue. I thought it was a great environment, and it was nice to have the opportunity to play in that arena.
As a coach, how do you view this game with Lafayette? A lot of it seems to be fan and maybe media driven to a certain extent, but do you think it's hyped up as a coach what it is to be?
No, I think it is fan and media driven, but I think anytime you get into a geographical rivalry game like this, you have two schools in the state that are competing with recruiting, against each other, that are in two different conferences. I think these are rivalry games. I love these games. I think there's an awful lot that rides on it, not only for your programs, but also for your fan base. I think there's an awful lot riding on it. And so I think it creates a lot of excitement for our players. A lot of these players, both teams have players from the state of Louisiana. They played with each other in all-star games, played against each other in high school, and I think that just adds to the rivalry itself.